All right, hello everyone. My name is Sarah DeGrazia, and I am presenting my topic on the leadership method of path goal theory. And this is found in chapter 6 of our textbook, Nordhaus. So our agenda today is going to be, I'm going to talk through a little introduction to path goal theory and then some background about how this theory came to be and the history on it. I'm going to discuss 4 major theorists that were behind the details and really establish the framework of this theory. And then we're going to talk through a few definitions just to clarify some of the words and terms that are commonly used when talking about path goal theory. And then I'll also talk about the theory breakdown. There's 4 main leadership behaviors that I'm going to discuss, and then we'll kind of wrap it up with some practical application of tying it into your personal lives and your future careers. I'll give examples of what I'm looking for in the future and how I'm going to tie this leadership method into my careers as hopefully an RD. And then lastly, we'll do some concluding thoughts. And if you guys have any questions, I'll give you my email at the end and you can, share those with me. All right, so our introduction is that path goal theory is a leadership theory that focuses on reducing obstacles and using various leadership behaviors. There are specifically 4 that I'm going to talk about later to motivate these followers and their performance at completing specific goals. And then an effective leader helps followers define their goals at a set by setting a clear path on how to achieve these goals. And this information was found from Nordhaus 2022. All right, this was one of the diagrams in the book in chapter 6, and I just kind of liked how it was laid out. I'm kind of more of a visual learner, so this was helpful for me. It shows that at the end there are the goals and productivity, which is what we're seeking to attain, and then in the middle there is the path to get there, and there might be some obstacles in the middle, and then subordinates all the way on the left-hand side is just another word for followers, or the workforce, the people that are trying to accomplish these goals and productivity. And so then at the bottom there, it just had some bullet points of what leaders should be, what they should be detailing and helping their followers do to attain these goals. So that was defining their goals, clarifying the path, so making it more detailed and easier to follow, and then removing obstacles and providing support. All right, so now we're going to go through some background to path goal theory just to give us the history, which will help it make more sense once we get into more of the details of what it's about. All right, so here we have the main founders or people that were the theorists behind path goal theory. The beginnings of path goal theory was discovered by Martin Evans in 1970, where he stated that leadership behaviors and the followers' perception of the degree to which following these particular behaviors will lead to their particular outcome or goal. And then the next person that really took this idea and ran with it was Robert House. If you look up path goal theory, he's going to be the main person that's kind of detailed and really took this theory to the next level. He took the original theory by Martin Evan and came up with the different categories of behaviors, which was 4 specifically that we're going to talk about later. And then he proposed that leaders should initiate structure for their subordinates, which is just another word for followers, by doing such things as assigning particular tasks, specifying procedures to be followed, clarifying your expectations, and scheduling work to be done. And then these middle 2 people, Dessler and Mitchell, he worked with them, House worked with them on several articles in 1974 that just kind of came up with some more details on the theory. And then again in 1996, I'll move my head so you guys can see. There we go. Robert House, again, in his article titled The Leadership Quarterly, updated his work on path goal theory. And then, yeah, ever since then, people have been using it. And there's been different research articles about it. I looked into a few of those. We'll talk about that later, though, in like the strengths and criticism. Okay, so different definitions that we need to be kind of familiar with before we dive into path goal theory. The first one is motivation. Path goal theory ties a lot into motivation, and it specifically talked about expectancy theory, which is an individual's how capable they think they are of performing like the work at hand. It talked about that if you believe your efforts will come up with a certain outcome, you're more likely to put in the work, i.e. more likely to be motivated to do it. And then there's two different types of motivation. We have extrinsic, which is receiving external rewards. So whether this is like money or physical items, some type of, award for doing your job, or then intrinsic, which is just the pleasure of the job itself and the work that you're doing. You find joy in that in, completing different tasks. The next thing that we need a definition for is obstacles. A lot of us know what obstacles are, but I just wanted to define it because this also gets talked about a lot in path goal theory. So obstacles are barriers that restrict or prevent one from achieving your goals, or just might slow the achievement of these goals. So good leaders are people that remove or lessen the effect of the obstacles that these followers are going to come in contact with. And then last, we have formal authority, which is when individuals have authority that's like tied to an organization. So they have a specific title and role. So an example of this would be like if you work at Walmart and you have a manager, that manager has that title, they have that leadership role, it is tied to that organization. Yeah. Okay, this was another diagram from the book that I thought was really good. It kind of details, again, we're going to go into those 4 leadership behaviors: directive, supportive, participative, and achievement oriented. And then we're also later going to talk about follower characteristics and task characteristics, and then how followers are motivated based on those 3 things to complete their goals. All right, so we're kind of going to land on the slide for a while. These are the 4 different leadership behavior types that path goal theory is basically comprised of. This is like the heart of path goal theory. So if a leader is directive, this is the first of the leadership behaviors. And just for reference, like this isn't like a one size fits all, like you're only going to land in this one leadership type. You can kind of go between the 2 or between the 4 and mix them up too. So the first one is directive. This is leaders who base their leadership methods on structure. It's a very like telling style of leading. So you describe the step-by-step expectations. You have a lot of instructions, rules, regulations on what type of performance you desire, and like what you're looking for in, intense details, whether this is like written or verbal or whatever. And then an example of this is like if you have a professor at the beginning of your semester that provides a syllabus with like detailed due dates and a rubric for every assignment with the expectations laid out, line by line, and like how the grading will be and like what exactly they're expecting. And so we're going to talk about later, like some people thrive under this type of leadership and some don't. We'll just kind of talk about those strategies a little bit later though too. The second type of leadership method is supportive. This is more of like a friendly, approachable type of leader. They base their leadership methods on relations and like more like tending and caring to the well-being of their followers. They want to provide them with any type of supplemental items that can like best help those followers complete the tasks that they're doing. So this type of leadership, you're not like doing the exact work that the followers are doing, but you're doing work that helps them complete their work, if that kind of makes sense. An example of this, which might help it be more solid in your mind, is like if employees were required to fill out a bunch of paperwork or file reports or like do inventory of stock, so very like mundane work, the leader might bring them like refreshments throughout this work, or offer them breaks, or provide some sort of reward at the end, if they like, complete a certain amount, or like during their work. So it's when the leader like comes with that, emotional or physical support. The third type is participative, which is when the leader consults with the followers. And so this type of leader asks their opinion, wants to get their suggestions about different decisions that can be made. This type of leader is looking for the followers to make like shared goals that they're trying to attain. It's very like discussion oriented, and everyone has a say. So an example of this, which was actually pulled out of the book, was if an owner of a restaurant like had weekly meetings with their kitchen staff and asked the staff to discuss ideas for the menu, like any menu changes or like advertising ideas on how to get their restaurant like out there, or different like service techniques. Basically, as a group, they would come up with ideas on like how to best serve their guests and customers. And then the last leadership style that we're going to talk about is achievement oriented. This type of leadership style focuses on challenging the followers to really push themselves and achieve like high standards of excellence. This is also detail oriented, but not like in, like not like the first one, how it was like descriptive words. This one's more like detailed on your performance. So they might pick out like one area that you're, not excelling in as much and really want to focus on getting you up to that level. This type of leadership seeks continual improvement from its followers. An example would be like a coach of a football team, pushing his players to improve in like their detailed formations or executing plays. This would involve like rigorous practices, and maybe at the end of practice, naming a few teammates who excelled throughout practice or in games, and then maybe one-on-one later with players who didn't do as well, talking about like certain areas that they can work on to improve their performance. So these are the four main leadership behaviors, and we're going to tie back into these later in the presentation. So just kind of keep them in the forefront of your head. All right, now we have follower characteristics. So basically, leaders need to interpret their followers like needs, and then base their followers' needs on what type of leadership role they should be giving them. And I'll kind of explain that further. So if your follower is needing a preference for structure, which is like the first one up there, you are going to want to do that more directive style of leadership where you provide that certainty and consistency to those individuals, so that they like know their expectations. They're looking for that more like hands-on, like this is exactly what I want you to do in your work type of leadership. Second one is a need for affiliation. These type of followers need that connection. They're more like in tune with their feelings. They want that nurturing from a leader, and individual relationships. So this one is the one that was focused on that support leadership behavior, where they're gonna, come next to them and really like get to know them and ask them like what they need on more of like personal levels, because that work is just more boring and mundane and they don't really need the details of the exact work. They just need someone to like make them feel seen, to help them like get through that work and feel successful in what they're doing and feel like someone's there and cares. The third one is when followers have a desire for control. So these type of followers want to get a say. They want to be in charge of their own work. They want to dictate and react to certain circumstances that might pop up in their work environment, and they seek like that direct involvement. And so participation type of leadership is going to be best for this type of follower. That's the type of leadership that, asks their opinion and has them involved in almost, like an equal type role as the leader. And then lastly was your self-perceived like level of task ability. So if you feel very capable of the task that you're completing, you're going to want that achievement type of leadership, which focuses on the individuals excelling in the role that they're in, and that details to like improve, like what areas can we get better at. You don't need as much direction because you're already comfortable in the role that you're in. Thus, like the leader can give you more freedom, but still be pushing you to do better in the work that you're in. All right, so next, task characteristics also play into this. So not only are we looking at the different leadership behaviors and the different follower characteristics, now we have task characteristics. So that's the design of like the tasks itself, like the work that you're doing. So if you look at this chart, we already talked about those leader behaviors, so you can kind of skip that section, and group members, that's like the follower characteristics. So look at the last column where it says task characteristics. So if the tasks are like ambiguous or like unclear and kind of complex, the individual is going to need that directive type of leadership. So you see how it like correlates with the table. They're going to want the leader to step in and provide that structure through the rules and, writing out like what they need to do. Oh, and then on the right over here, we have like design of the task, formal authority system, and primary work of group of followers. Those also tie into this. So the formal authority system, if your work is kind of like mundane and boring, you might need your leader to step in and provide like added support. So that's underneath the one where it says task characteristics, and it's like repetitive, unchanging, mundane, mechanical. If you look over, you're going to want that more supportive type leadership to provide you with just those extra, you might need that extra boost to get through this work. And you just need some support. Okay, and then primary work group of followers. This is more the leader stepping in and getting like facilitating bonds between the followers and getting the members to be more cohesive and achieving shared goals. Yeah, I think that's all I had on this slide, but things to think about. Okay, here we have a quote from our book on page 144. It said, "Path goal theory is useful because it continually reminds leaders that their central purpose is to help followers define and reach their goals in the most efficient manner." So I really wanted to focus on like the continually reminding leaders that they need to be reflectively looking at their followers' needs and the tasks that the followers are completing, and then basing their leadership behaviors off of that. All right, so we have evaluation next. So this was how I evaluated the path goal theory. I read through the book, and the strengths that it pointed out was, first off, that the framework is easy to follow. It was kind of had, it has those 4 things written out with the behaviors and then the tasks and the followers. And so you can just kind of follow the chart and base your leadership off of that. Another strength was that it comprehensively evaluates the tasks and followers' characteristics to determine the best leadership strategy. So I kind of already talked about this, but you're looking at your followers and the work that they're doing to decide which leadership you should do. So it's just very reflective, which is a good skill to have as a leader, not just like pick whatever leadership style you're best in and force everyone to like thrive under that. And then lastly, it directly ties in motivation. So again, as we talked about earlier, with that, like how well capable you think you are of completing a task, these different types of behavior, or I'm sorry, these different type of leadership behaviors can directly motivate you. And then the evaluation in the book for critiques was a lot longer for path goal theory than the strengths was. The first part was it said that lots of parts of this theory were confusing just because there was so many parts, which kind of contradicts the strength that was mentioned earlier about it being easy to follow. But that's what our textbook Nordhaus said. So I could see how it could be confusing in that there are kind of a lot of moving parts and there's not like one specific behavior method that's going to be perfect for everyone, but that's because people have different personalities and different work types and ways that they thrive. So you do need to be like adaptive and and, mix and match and see what's working best for the people that you're leading. The second thing was that empirical research studies only gave partial support. So basically, the research that's been done on path goal theory hasn't been done on all four theory methods like at once, and like looking into like those task roles and the follower roles. It's only kind of taken like one here and there, and so there is kind of only partial scientific evidence to back this theory up. And the next critique is that it doesn't account for gender differences. A lot of these studies that were done were just based on male leadership. It hasn't really taken into account how females are seen using path goal theory. It also mentioned at one point that like different ethnic groups haven't been studied with this theory either, so that's another thing to consider. It also apparently doesn't provide detailed examples. I provided a few examples in this presentation, but path goal theory itself doesn't like give you an example for each of the behavior ones and the task ones and like the followers. So you might just like have to take path goal theory at face value and try it out and see how it works. You're not going to have like those details like you want. And then the last one, which I think is a fair critique, is that it assumes that leaders can switch roles. So it's assuming that you as a leader could do all four of those, the directive, the participating, the achievement orientating, and the support, and mix and match based on your followers, which could be very difficult for people because at least as I read through them, I was thinking like, oh, there's a specific one that me as a follower enjoys like being under, and then there's also ones that I think that I just be better at than others. So it'd be very difficult to go between these and mix and match. But that's how the theory is. So all right, practical application. So this is how I'm taking path goal theory and applying it to my life. First, I would want to utilize all four of the leadership behavior methods. I think that they're great skills to have, and there's like benefits to each of them. I like the idea of evaluating the followers' characteristics, so the people that you're overseeing, and the specific tasks they're doing, and then relating that to what leadership type that you should be, giving to them to help best motivate them and get their performance up. An example of this would be I was the president of SDA in undergrad, and that was a leadership role. I personally feel like I did more of the participation leadership method, which is where we had like an executive board of officers, and so we would all kind of bounce ideas off of each other. So even though I was delegating tasks, I was still getting a lot of opinions from other people, and I wasn't just like coming up with the ideas on my own just because that would have been too overwhelming in general. So it was very like of those, I think there was 5 or 6 of us. We all, I would say, like had equal role in the decisions that were made and what was done. So yeah, and then professional, like in my future career, how I want to tie path goal theory in is after I do some clinical work as a registered dietitian, I eventually want to go into teaching and educating. I think that's a really cool role. And right now I'm the food labs GA here at Eastern, and I really enjoy like giving presentations to the class on, what recipes they're making and overseeing them in that. And so I think that this path goal theory would be a great leadership method to use as a teacher, because you're going to have different students come in that have different needs. So you might have a student that comes in is just very confused and needs more of that descriptive, like you detailing out exactly what you need them to do just to help them like get through the work that they're doing, because they need like those details and they need that written out. Or you might have a student that already kind of excels at schoolwork and finds it easy and just doesn't feel super challenged. So you're going to need to be more of that achievement oriented leader and push them and maybe point out areas that they can improve to like challenge them more. And then I also like assessed the usefulness of the path goal theory in general. And I personally feel that it's adaptable to the different types of followers and personalities and people that you're going to have that you're overseeing and in your life. I personally found it easy to follow. I know that the critiques in the book said that it was kind of complicated, but I didn't personally think so. And then lastly, I liked that it was very reflective and that you evaluated based on followers and the tasks that they're doing, such as like if the task was tedious. All right, so in summary, path goal theory is grounded in the idea that followers will be motivated by their leaders if they feel competent, they think their efforts will be rewarded, and they find value in the work that they're doing. And while there are critiques of this leadership theory, if utilized properly, the strengths can further your leadership abilities and help your team effectively meet its goals. All right, and here are my references for the information that I provided you today. And I just want to thank you guys for listening to my presentation. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me, and that's my email below.